We are live. We are live. Saturday night is all right for PATC. Welcome into college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to support this Rebel Outpost. If you want to support the home for college football sickles with a donation to help us keep the lights on, just hit that $ where you make your comment and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. It's going to be a very simple show tonight. It's not a stacked Saturday night live show. I got a really quick, interesting phone call. It was just a minute and 30-second phone call. And I put it up on my X account, and I'm like, I'm seeing the wife, the little general is making a very exotic dinner tonight. It's taken her hours to cook. I looked at the little general. She saw me take the phone call. I ran into, make a long story short, she said, go ahead. Do your live show. Go ahead. bother the college football sickos on a Saturday night. You've all got a lot better things to do, to be honest with you, than to listen to the fat guy from Minnesota blab on and on and on. But if you don't have anything better to do, if you live in Loserville City like I do, and I am the mayor, let's talk about it. This is going to be a Saturday call-in show. I'm only going to spend 20, 30 minutes on the monologue, and then we're going to open up to the phone calls. I want to hear what you've got to say on this possibility. It's a possibility. That probably ain't going to happen. Everybody settle down. Everybody settle down. Relax. We're just talking. There's no harm done in talking. We're just talking here. We're not making any decisions. I'm a nobody. This is the YouTube channel for nobodies. We're just talking. Ross Dellinger, thanks. First of all, thanks for everybody joining us. Let's do a roll call real quick. Let's do a roll call. Larry the Jam Longhorn has come in. At the beginning of the show, Mr. Buckeye Kayla Ramirez, Oklahoma State MBM. Oklahoma State's playing a softball game right now. They beat Indiana. I can't remember who they're playing. They were playing earlier. I think they were up 4-1. I could be wrong. Florida Man is in the house. MGC Sooner is here. Bob Swanger, Nathan Jones, Amac Coy, Tumasta is in the house. No, Greg has to take off his Big 12 tinted glass. I've been accused of being a big pro Big 12 today. I was accused of being a pro Big 10 yesterday on X. I cannot keep up. I don't know who I am anymore. People are telling me I'm this. People are telling me I'm that. B Bean is in the house. Still Austin is, here is the evil badger. Still Austin is in the house. Jeff Olson. Jeff Olson says the Twins are not going to sweep the Brewers. AMAC is here. RT is here. Tim Bells is here. The Trench Gritch is in the house. Checking in from Tempe to Tallahassee. Ooh, I love that. Saved by Grace is in the house. Thomas is here. Movie Time Blues. Movie Time Blues. There's a lot of different angles to this. There's a lot of different no. When I first got this phone call, I'm like, what? This ain't going to happen. And it probably won't happen. But I said to myself, the Big 12 and the ACC are not going to agree to this. They're not going to agree to this. First of all, they're going to have to share the revenue created by the game. That's like one big thing. How do they share the revenue for that game? Where is it going to be played at? There's a lot of issues with what we're going to be talking about tonight. But in that short little phone call, it was like, this might be, we'll get into it. We will get into it. Nathan is in the house. Lee is in the house. Okay, let's get to it. Thanks for all coming on in. I appreciate it. I don't know how long the live show this is going to be. It's primarily going to be about your phone calls. If nobody calls in, we'll shut it down early. I just wanted to give people an opportunity to say this is the most ridiculous idea I have ever heard. Or some would say that's intriguing. Some would say if that's the best we can get, grab it. Some would say we don't bend the knee for nobody. Make the Big 10 and the SEC bend the knee. And some other people might say or ask, what does Notre Dame think about this? What does Notre Dame think about this? Jacober Cat, Will the SEC and the Big 10 overlords force lesser conference to pay Hunger Games tributes with their mascots? Will North Carolina State's Miss Wolf betray Mr. Wolf or Kent State's Willie the Wildcat as Otto the Syracuse Orange is peeled? All great questions. All great questions, Jacober Cat. I think you've sent a message. I think you've sent a message here. This third place Otto big game, that's an option between the Big 12 and the ACC. They could call it Hunger Games, Otto bid playing game. I can see why people are looking at it that way. I get it. The message is sent. Thank you, Super Cat. I think you speak for a lot of people. Jacober Cat, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate your generosity, sir. Very creative post. I love creative posts, especially with the super chats. That was A1 job, Jacober Cat. Very good. Very good. Don Scruggs. Nah, this is just Jim Phillips trying to wedge the ACC ahead of the Big 12. Ryan Martin. That's what I thought. And that's probably what some of this is. But some of this isn't that. To my surprise. And that's why we're going to talk about this single issue tonight. Now, some of you are probably going, what the hell is Greg talking about? We know his cheese has slipped off his cracker a long time ago. What is he talking about? Let's get to it here. Now, of course, I should have been more prepared, and I am not. Why is that? What did I just do? Why have I screwed it up already? Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Okay. So, let's start here. Ross Dellinger, an hour and 15 minutes ago, put out a post. The 4 power conference commissioners met today for a second time in the last 10 days as they continue to explore a variety of 16-team playoff models, including a compromise for the Big 12 and ACC discussed in the story below on May 14th. Okay? So for tonight's show, and we're going to open up the phone calls real early tonight. This is a Saturday night call-in show. I'm going to at least, in this monologue, I'm going to narrow this down. I'm only going to talk about 16 teams. I'm not going to talk 14. 16-team playoff models, including, it sounds like Ross Dellinger, really, I'm just guessing here, but he wants to make a point of emphasis. They're talking about including a compromise for the Big 12 ACC discussed in the story below. What were, now if you go back and take a look at it, the story on May 14th, okay, 3 days ago. 3 days ago. What were the compromise discussed in the story, in the reporting of 3 days ago? Let's take a look at that. And again, I should have had this, I did have this set up and now I lost it. What the heck is going on? So everybody, we all know, and we've known this for quite a while, that the 4-4-2-2-1 format being pushed by the Big 10 and the SEC, right? 2 each to the ACC and the Big 12. Now, several alternative models were discussed with the ACC directors this week. Okay? Any 4-4-3-3-1 model or a 4-4-3-2-1 model reduces the at-large pool from 3 to as little as 1. Okay? The 3-3-2-2-1 model was roundly rejected when Tony Petitti proposed a similar format. Now, some of you might think we're going to go to a 3-3-2-2-1 in a 16-team playoff. And that would be what? 5 at-large bids? And that's great. If you think that's going to happen, give me a call tonight. Let me know if this is the best way. This is the Big 10 and the SEC are going to bend the knee on this. It's going to go 3-3-2-2-1 because the Big 10 and the SEC needs help with other governance. Whatever is part of your argument, use it. If you think the 3-3-2-2-1 is going to happen in a 16-team playoffs. I can only tell you, and I've been saying this for months, all I can tell you is what is being told to me by many, 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 many different people, like everybody. And it's been reported as such. The Big 10 wants 4. The SEC has aligned themselves with the Big 10. The SEC coaches want 4. That's been reported. So the question tonight is, they're working on a compromise with the Big 12 and the ACC. We at PATC happen to believe, and we could end up being wrong, and if we're wrong, I'm going to eat an abomination live in front of this camera, a cheeseburger. But we believe that the Big 10 and the SEC are going to get their 4 automatic bids. They've been gaming this out for months. So the compromise, as Ross Dillinger put it here, 4-4-3-3-1 model or a 4-4-3-2-1 model. Let's first discuss the 4-4-3-3-1 model. Okay? That is a 4-4-3-3-1-1. That would be 4 Big 10, 4 SEC, 3 ACC, 3 Big 12, 1 G6, and 1 at large. I find that very difficult. Maybe that is what's going to happen. Maybe that is the compromise, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe the Big 10 and the SEC and Notre Dame all acquiesce and say, okay, if Notre Dame might just throw up their hands and say, okay, 1 at large bid. If we can't get in the top 16, we don't deserve to go to the playoffs, whatever. You got the SEC. If it's 4-4-3-3-1-1, the SEC, Greg Sankey is going to have to tell his presidents, his athletic directors, and his coaches in a 16-team playoff, we cannot get more than 4 teams into the playoffs. I happen to believe that is going to be an unbelievable, difficult message for Sankey to send to his conference, especially in lieu of the SEC and the Big 10 have the power to format this sucker any way they want to do it. with costs, with political costs. I mean, would the SEC rather go 4-4-3-3-1-1 or just do 16 at-large bids? They would rather go 16 at-large bids at that point. But they do want those 4 auto bids. The reason why they want those 4 auto bids because they want to go to 9 conference games. They want to do a play-in game. They want to do a cross-scheduling schedule with the Big 10. This is all going to add revenue to the SEC. That's why they want these auto bids. But do they want 4 auto bids with no chance of getting an at-large bid? None whatsoever? Okay. So my opinion, and it's only an opinion, we're all going to have different opinions. We're all going to have different opinions. I would be shocked. I would be gobsmacked if we end up in the next couple of weeks deciding on a 4-4-3-3-1-1 model. I would be absolutely gobsmacked that the SEC would agree to this model. I would be absolutely floored. I would not be cheering it. I would not be booing it. I don't want any of these auto bids. As a fan, I just want an auto bid for the conference champions. But who cares what I want? I'm talking about what are we going to see? Now, I care what you want. I'm already not going to get what I want. I care what you want. I care what you guys think is going to happen. I cannot grasp the idea that the 4-4-3-3-1-1 model, no matter how justified it is, no matter how democratized it is, whatever word you want to use, and it is, I cannot imagine that to happen. Where the SEC does not give themselves a chance to get in that large bid. They're going from 12 to 16, and they have a better chance of getting 5 teams in the current model than they would if we jump to a 16 team in this particular model, 4-4-3-3-1-1. Okay, so that is my opinion only. Now, I want to talk about the 4-4-3-2-1 model. The 4-4-3-2-1-1 model. Now, when I first read this, and we did a live show on this, we did a live show on May 14th in this entire article. And when I looked at the 4-4-3-2-1-1 model, I was presuming that the 3 was the ACC wanting those 3 auto bids. In fact, it said it here somewhere in some report that Phillips was pushing for 3 auto bids. But I'm thinking to myself, if they're going to go for 3, the Big 12 is going to want 3. The Big 12 ain't going to lay down. The Big 12 it would be a war if the ACC got 3 and the Big 12 got 2. You can make the argument, if you like, that the ACC deserves 1 more auto bid. But again, the ACC has no more power than the Big 12 when forming this playoff model. So, remember, 4-4-3-2-1-1, okay? 4 Big 10, 4 SEC, and at the time I thought this meant 3 ACC, 2 Big 10, 1 G6, and 1 at-large. Again, no, I'm sorry, 2 at-large. That would be 2 at-large. Okay, let me go back to what I said after I read the Ross Dellinger tweet of earlier today. I just asked the question. I just asked the question out in public. I have no idea what these compromises were discussed today on a Saturday by the 4 Autonomy 4 commissioners on a Saturday. I just asked the question. Were these the compromises being discussed today by the A4 commissioners? And then I basically copied and pasted the Ross Dellinger options that he discussed on May 14th. Any 4-4-3-3-1 model or 4-4-3-2-1 model reduces the at-large pool from 3 to as little as 1, quote unquote. And then I explain these were the options reported on by Ross Dellinger on May 14th as a pushback on the 4-4-2-2-1 with 1 at large. And that should have said 3 at large. Excuse me. I made a mistake. That should have said 3 at large. Anyways, so that's what I put. Okay? Then I got a phone call. From somebody behind the curtain, chatter behind the curtain, and basically said, Greg, I saw your post, and I'm just quickly letting you know that the 4-4-3-2-1 model, a portion of that discussion that is going on is not 3 for the ACC. I mean, that is, of course, an option being discussed, but what was being told to me was that 3 would be a third place play-in game between the Big 12 and the ACC for that third auto bid. And I said, what? Because right away it did not make sense to me. At least for me, it did not make sense. Because there's a lot of logistics to that, right? Third place team, where is it played? How do you divide the revenue? Okay. So it was a quick phone call and says that is an option that is being discussed, and these are the reasons why. A, B, C, and I'm going to go through those reasons real quick. It was a short phone call. It was A, B, C. This is the reason why that is being discussed as an option. So I went on and I put out another post right after that. This was 14 minutes after my other post. Okay? Auto bid playing game between the Big 12 and the ACC third place teams. That is how you get a 4-4-3-2-1-2 model as an option. Okay. So let me explain why it is believed by at least somebody, some chatter behind the curtain, that this is an option that they're talking about. Caleb Ramirez, thank you so much for being a member. 17 months. Holy smokes. 17 months. Holy smokes. My goodness. Wow. Thank you for becoming a member for all those times. I'm trying to find my soundboard. Everything's kind of screwed up tonight. Thank you so much, Caleb Ramirez. You are here by Knighted, Cloak, and Dagger. I could see the SEC and the Big 10 play each other with the other 2 spots, where the winner gets the other spots. I hope I worded this okay. You worded it okay. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening, at least not for now. I don't think the Big 10 and the SEC are going to use their power in a way to eliminate each other before the tournament starts. But I get it. Now people are, look, this is going to open up a whole more creative thinking, and maybe down in the future, maybe possibly. But I don't think that is on the table for now. I haven't heard it. Then maybe, Caleb. Keep bringing those ideas. Who knows what's going to happen here? They're trying to compromise. Look. So these are the reasons why the person who called me said this is being discussed. Number one. Now, according, again, you take this however you want it. But according to what I was told, that's why 14 minutes later I posted that other post. The Big Ten and the SEC, I've already said it, I'll eat the cheeseburger live if they move off those 4 auto bids. But they're not moving off those 4 auto bids. They want 50% of the auto bids. They get more than 50% of the distribution money. They have more than 50% of the power. They're going to get 50% of the auto bids if there is auto bids. Now, before you all get mad at me, before you all start yelling at me, and before I start getting nasty DMs, I don't want any auto bids except for the conference champions. This is not the fat guy what I want. I want what we have. So forget about yelling at me, okay? You can yell at the Big Ten, you can yell at the SEC, or you can yell at me for having bad information if you want, if you think that's true. But this is not what I want. On this 90-second phone call, and that's all it took because me and this person have had 1,000 discussions about this. He was explaining to me why the 4-4-3-2-1-2 model is a discussion point. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it's a discussion point where the third place ACC and the third place Big 12 play each other for that out of it. Number one, he said the Big 10 and the SEC are not going backwards on their 4 auto bids. That's number one. Number two, the SEC and the Big 10 and Notre Dame are all going to want the opportunity to grab an at-large spot. Notre Dame, if there's 2 at-large spots, it's a lot better than at one at-large spot, because not that it hurts Notre Dame's ability to get on a large spot, because if they're top 16, they're getting one. But the blowback on Notre Dame, if a 5th place SEC team finishes ahead of Notre Dame, but Notre Dame gets the large spot, in the rankings, but particularly it's about the SEC. The SEC does not want to, look, the SEC wanted a playoff model of 12 teams, all at large bids. That's what they truly wanted. Now, they understand the economics of what they're about to get into. The 9 conference games, the play-in games, the crossover games with the Big Ten, not having to worry about a non-conference loss as much as they used to, not even having to worry about a conference loss. That's why they're going from 8 to 9 if you get 4 auto bids. But the SEC does not want to be in a position where they can't have their cake and eat it too. They want to be able to eat the cake, and they want to be able to have the possibility of eating the frosting, which is the at-large. It is why compromising with the Big 12 and the ACC, according to this quick phone call, 4-4-3-3-1-1, is pretty much an impossibility in the eyes of the SEC. So the reason why a 4-4-3-2-1-2 model is being discussed is because it alleviates the SEC. Notre Dame has 2 bites at the apple, but they really only need 1. And now it gets down to the Big 12 and the ACC. What is their perception of this? Obviously, they would want 4-4-3-3 over 4-4-3-2. Of course they want it. And who knows, maybe they get it. For whatever reason, the SEC. But again, the SEC has the power. So if you're the Big 12 and you're the ACC, and you're looking at this, you're going, we could have 2 auto bids, but this could give us a chance for 3 auto bids, and this also would give us a chance for an at-large bid. What if there really is, during the season, what if there really is only 3 Big 10 teams that are really in the top 16? But they're going to get that 4th auto bid. But the Big 10 is out for an at-large bid. What if the SEC really has 5 teams? They get 4 in, and then they get an at-large bid. But what if it's one of those years that Notre Dame does go 7-5? There's another at-large bid out there. You get 2 bites at the apple. A 3rd place Big 12 versus a 3rd place ACC game, you get an auto bid. Whoever the winner of that game gets an auto bid. It's going to get a lot of eyeballs. And then you still have the possibility of the loser of that game scooping up an at-large bid. It's not as good as 4-4-3-3. In some, and I can understand why you believe, some might not believe it's as good as the 3-3-2-2, 1-1, whatever, 4-3 model. But this is actually being discussed as an option, as a compromise. The 4-4-3-2-1-2, where the Big 12 and the ACC 3rd place teams battle for the last auto bid spot. The championship game in the Big 12, the championship game in the ACC, the winner, of course, go to the playoffs. The loser of those championship games go to the playoffs, which is better now. And there's a 3rd place auto bid spot. The winner goes between the Big 12 and the ACC, and the loser still has the opportunity to get an at-large spot. What do you think? Do you think that is crazy? Do you think Yormark and Phillips should walk away from that possible compromise? Do you think they should battle? Do you think they should threaten? And if you're Big 10 and SEC, does that work for you? Only 2 at-large spots. Only 2. Remember, the SEC and the Big 10 has been pushing for 4-4-2-2-1-3. That's what they've been pushing for. 4-4-2-2-1-3 at-large bids. So an SEC could get a 5th team in. The SEC could get a 6th team in. The Big 10 could get a 5th team in. In that model, an ACC could get a 3rd one in. That's the model that the SEC and the Big 10 are pushing. And they actually have the power to go ahead and do it. But when Ross Dellinger is talking about A4 commissioners meeting on Saturday, May 17th, talking about the compromise options, one of those options is a 4-4-3-3 1-1. And the other option is a 4-4-3-2, 1-2. And according to what I was told this evening, that option is not necessarily, it is definitely not necessarily 3 ACC, 2 for the Big 12. It's a 3, but you got to battle it to get it between the Big 12 and the ACC. We're going to open up the phone lines. We are going to open up the phone lines. It is a crazy Saturday night. Number one, I keep going back and forth on this. When I heard that, I said, no way. I yelled it in the phone. No way. Big 12 and ACC. And then, there's logistical. It's a cost certain, though. You know you're going to have that game. You need when you're going to have these auto bids and these play-in games as conferences and as your media partners, you've got to know what's going to happen at the end of the season. So it can't be this moving target. So if you do have a third place Big 12 versus ACC buy-in, a play-in game, it is scheduled. You know where it's going to be. You know what network is going to do it. This year ESPN is going to do it. Next year Fox is going to do it. Or maybe not. Maybe every year ESPN is going to do it because they both have a media relations with ESPN. But how do you do the revenue? How do you do the revenue? I guess they can figure it out. I want to hear what you guys got to say. I want to hear what you got to say from a Big 12 perspective. I want to hear what you got to say from an ACC perspective. I want to hear what you got to say from a Big 12 perspective. Big 10 perspective, an SEC perspective, because it's going from what you want, 3 at large, down to 2 at large. Okay, I want to hear what everyone's got to say. I'm going to open up the phone lines right now. 42-minute monologue. That's pretty good. Ryan Martin, a play-in is Brett Yormark trying to get Phillips to put his money where his mouth is. Both are roughly the same 12 edges ACC and head-to-head record over the last 15 years. Again, can you imagine? There would be a lot of bragging rights to this, a lot of heat thrown back and forth. And who knows? Maybe in the years ahead, it can be even a little bit more creative. Maybe there'll be a different playing game between 2 different conferences, whatever. But we're gonna focus on this one here. Ryan Martin, thank you so much. Cloak and Dagger member for the 9th month. Holy smokes. My goodness. Okay, we're gonna open up the phone lines here. Let me work on something real quick. Here. And then we're going to open up the phone lines earlier than we usually have them open. It's open line Saturday night here at PATC, Peek Around the Corner College Football. Let me do this real quick. Now, when you call in, you can talk about anything in college football that your heart desires. But we're really focusing in on this. What do you think? Do you want this to happen? Do you want there to be, instead of a 4-4-2-2, about a 4-4-3-2 third place playing game between the ACC and the Big 12? I did quickly ask. I said, well, what if you have, I try to put some other different options in there. What if you take the Big 12 regular season champion, okay? Big 12 regular season champion, and have them as your champ. And the ACC has their regular season champion as their champ, okay? And then you do a 2 versus 3 playing game. That is your auto bid game. 2 versus 3. The winner gets an auto bid. The third place team, whoever loses that game still has a chance for one of the 2 at large. And then you have a 4th place versus 4th place between the Big 12 and the ACC. And the person quickly said that ain't going to happen. That's not the option that they're thinking about. And then the phone call ended. So I did bring up another option, but no, what's being discussed is Big 12 championship game, ACC championship game, and those 2 third place teams play each other for the other auto bid. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. It probably isn't going to happen. I was just told that they're talking about it. Let's go to your phone calls right now. They are open. The line is open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Saturday night is all right for PATC.
Call from
Ryan Martin.
Ryan Martin is on the line. The floor is yours. What do you think, sir?
So I feel like I have to follow up my comment a little bit first. But first of all, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. I didn't think we were going to do a live show tonight, but last still injuries report. I get a phone call. The person sets me straight on what the 4-4-3-2-1 model is all about. At least part of the discussion is that.
No.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I think really you kind of have to take everything in the context of how long does the playoff last into the future? I mean, you're right about the SEC and the Big 10 potentially getting more in a larger at-large position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the more at-large positions there are, the more teams that they're just going to get in. That's just natural. They're popular teams. They're going to get ranked highly. They perform well. Yeah. But that doesn't really seem fair when, you've got similar records to 5th and 6th teams between 5th and 6th place teams who, the Big 12 might have a 3rd place team that's better than them, yada, yada, yada.
Yes, sir.
Fairness aside.
Yep.
Really, you've got to think about whether or not the playoff is actually really going to last much longer past the termination of, or if this governance model thing gets off the ground, right? That the SEC and the Big 10, the A4 are all getting together. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. Really, I think the playing game, like I said in my comment, is.
Yeah, I mean, are you?
Them trying.
Yeah, go ahead.
So no, I'm just saying they're trying to get the Big 12 and the ACC to back off, throwing them a little bit of a bone, right?
Yes.
Because the ideal model for them is 4-4-2-2-1-3, or however that all works out.
That's what they want.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
Realistically, I don't see any universe in which if there's an extra at-large, that's never going to go to a third-place team who just lost a play-in game.
I would agree.
Maybe if there was like a 4th place team in the ACC or the Big 12 who, they had like a win over the winning 3rd place team, right? Who that might elevate them on a bubble to that position. But I would bet 99% of the time, if it's not going to, the 5th place SEC team, is going to the 5th place Big 10 team. That's just really how the hierarchy is going to go from now on. I think realistically, like I said in my comment, it's Brett Yormark trying to bring Jim Phillips kind of down off his pedestal, because he's the only one who's kind of publicly made the comments, right, that the ACC believes they deserve 3. And if it's trying to level the playing field between the two of them and not let him get a permanent step up above the Big 12.
Yeah, there might be a lot
Because
to
if I'm the
that what
Big,
you just said. Go ahead, sir.
yeah, I think if you're the Big 12, if you gotta take what the room is willing to give you, I think, in a lot of these situations, but you got to push for a 4-4-3-3-1-1. You absolutely have to push for that if you can. I think the Big Ten and the SEC are more willing to take 4 teams with other concessions. Um, Primarily, I think they'll be okay with 4 auto bids if the ACC and the Big 12 are willing to concede on uh, the home game issue for the first round, where it's straight seeding. They're going to get the top 8 spots. Those teams are going to go and host home games. Maybe the Big 12 and the ACC champion get a home game, but it's going to be the top 6 to 8 teams, right? And I think if you can maybe give them that, that's how you get the other auto bids. But I also question how much longer this iteration of the playoffs is going to last beyond that governance piece, especially if we're looking to move towards more divisions within the power conferences, if they're looking to do actual conference play-in games, make that part of it. Really, right now, the at-large the discussion, it's just trying to secure as much money as they can from the playoff by getting as many teams as they can guaranteed in based on the current makeup. And that's my opinion.
Okay. All righty, sir. Great call, my man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Call again, sir.
Yep.
Great call. And again, we talked about it on the last live show.
Call from
BJ.
BJ, can you hold on for just a moment, please?
Yes, sir.
We talked about on the last live show the governance, the A4 governance and the college football playoff governance are 2 completely different things. So we got to make sure can there be some horse trading? Yes, but the A4 governance, the proposals out there, it's pretty cemented. It keeps all the autonomy for conferences along in the same plateau. Really, if they all agree with each other on some issue, it's going to pass. And all the other conferences and schools and institutions are not going to have much to be able to combat that, even when it comes to the votes. But the college football playoffs until the end of this contract is the same way in which the Big Ten and the SEC have the power. They're completely 2 different things. So we got to make sure. Now, Travis Stillman says 4-4-3-3-1-1 is the only option the Big 12 ACC is willing to consider. I can understand that position, except when you say the only option they're willing to consider, they just don't have the votes. I mean, if the Big Ten and the SEC wanted this to be 4-4-2-2-1-3 tomorrow morning, they can do that. So, again, the Big 12 and the ACC have a voice, they have input, and they can exact a political cost on the Big Ten and the SEC. But there's also the other, the Big Ten and the SEC can. Now, I will say this. Let's make this clear before we go to BJ's phone call here. The 4-4-3-3-1-1 is a compromise option that Ross Dillinger did report on May 14th. So it probably is a compromise that they talked about today on May 17th, on a Saturday. They're trying to get this done. So the only thing I would question, and again, I received the phone call 2 minutes after I put that post out, the first one. if you look at it from an SEC perspective, are they really going to do a 4-4-3-3-1-1 model? Boy, I would be absolutely shocked. I would be absolutely gobsmacked if we're going from a 12-team playoff to a 16-team playoff and that eventually would result in the SEC having no shot at a 5th playoff team in the 16-team playoff, while they did have a mathematical shot of getting 5 teams in this current 12-team playoffs. That is why, even though this is being discussed, I would be absolutely floored if that is the result of what we get. But to be honest, it sounds like that's an option that they're talking about. BJ, thanks for your patience. The floor is yours.
As always, thanks for allowing me to speak on your platform, Greg. Happy Saturday.
You bet. Thanks for calling, sir.
A few things. So days like this is why I like your show. This is a conversation about an actual, actionable, plausible addition or modification to our current sport that I think it's doable. And I have not thought about this before, but after just thinking about it, I love it for a couple of reasons. For one, anything that brings more eyes to the television screen is going to get the attention of the 2 most important people in our sport. That's Mr. Petiti from the Big 10 and Sankey from the SEC. Right? I think it's a compromise in the sense that those 2 conferences that I mentioned still have an opportunity to get their 5th team in. And ultimately, that's what they want. Not only do they want that, the executives want that, right? Because those 2 conferences just produce more eyes on the TV screen. And I see the comment section, and there's folks who are looking at it from a pure sports standpoint. Not saying that they're wrong, they're just not right. This is sports and entertainment. And at the end of the day, eyeballs wins. And from an executive perspective, they would want a 5th place Penn State or a USC in that spot over a 3rd place Kansas State, right? Or a 3rd place UNC or somebody, right? I'm not saying it's right, but from a business standpoint, I get this logic. And then when you add on top of that, over the last 20-something years, not many times have the ACC or the Big 12 had a legitimate 4 teams or 3 teams to compete for national championship. Most, almost always it's 1 or 2 teams that are legitimately like championship worthy. And because I don't want to get into this position like we were last postseason, where the first week's games were not attractive. Maybe it's an outlier, but I'm watching college softball right now, and there's been so many 18-0, 15-0, 12-0 games, and I don't think that's good for the sport. But as it pertains to football, I like this 3rd place ACC, 3rd place Big 12 fighting it out for a chance to go to the tournament.
Yeah. I think something like this is going to get we're going to have quite the bandwidth of opinions on this. Even in my own mind, I keep going back and forth. Like, I don't know, man. My first reaction was when the person called me to say that 4-3-2 thing is part of that is this, what we're just discussing. And I said, no way, that can't be. And the guy settled me down and said, no, Greg, it's an option that they're discussing because The SEC isn't going to go lower than 2 at-large bids on this. So, um,
So I have a question for you, Greg.
yeah.
Is it like the sports Greg competing with the business executive Greg in determining what is like the path forward? Like what are you kind of weighing? That's battle.
Well, my first thought was, and I think I was wrong. My first thought was, okay, how does this? I understand the benefit for the Big 12 and the ACC. I don't know. I was thinking logistics. I thought there was a problem with logistics. The more I think about it, the more I think they could pull it off. You know, I guess I could possibly see this happening, but
because Greg, we have uneven playoff spots in the NFL, right? There are some years.
I know that. Well, I don't. First of all, I don't know. We can't really compare this to the NFL because anybody can get a wild card spot. I mean, it isn't like the NFC East automatically gets 2 wild cards, while the NFC Central only gets 1 wild card, and that's permanent. This is permanent. Yeah. This is like at least permanent for record. So we can't really compare it to the NFL. I'm talking about. I understand why the Big 10 and the SEC want their 4 auto bids. As a fan, I'm against it, but I understand. Look, I'm the one that first reported it. I understand the reasons why. I get all that. And they've accumulated power, and they're going to use it. I get all that. I'm wondering I'm just wondering if the ACC and the Big 12 will actually agree on, actually say, yes, okay, we'll take this swinging gate playing game where the ACC could get the 3rd auto, or we could get the 3rd auto. Because remember, one of the things we got to remember is there could be years that a 3rd place Big 12 team and a 3rd place ACC team, they would be completely out of. They wouldn't be in the top 16, right? So
yeah,
so we're going to have those years as well. So this is going to benefit the ACC and the Big 12. I don't know. It's very interesting. Again, this just got the phone call an hour and 20 minutes ago, or 2 hours, whatever the time was. I'm still trying to figure out my own opinion on it. But go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I agree. And I look at it, it's already a compromise, right? And so I think the compromise is, instead of giving up 2 spots to 1 spot each, the ACC and the Big 12, the Power 2 is like, hey, we'll just give you guys 1 spot and you can fight over it, right? And I think that's interesting. I think, and at the end of the day, the worst you can have is 2 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the worst. So like there's no downside to it. Like I don't see any downside to the ACC or the Big 12. You're guaranteed to get 2 in there.
Yeah.
And like I was reading the comment section, I think it was this guy Justin, who was like, hey, there's auto bids in college baseball. There's going to be auto bids in the CFP. There's 2 of them with each conference. But I think at the worst, you're going to have 2 teams in there. So, like, I don't see, to me, I do not see the downside from the middle 2 conferences at all. And because there's no way if for the electives or the 3 extra spots that's in the CFP, they're going to pick a Power 2 conference, right? I think ESPN has shown that they're not very consistent with how they choose the teams. And when things are close, they tend to lean on the Big 2 conferences getting teams in there.
Well, they didn't
like
last year. I thought the committee got it right last year. It was close. It was close.
I think they got it right too, Greg.
What?
I think they got it right too. That my issue is just the inconsistency.
Sure.
Right. This year it's this, next year. So and that inconsistency, I think, was what drew the Power 2 conference. Say, hey, we need to take these guys out of the equation. Just give us more certainty. But I don't want to take up too much of your time, Greg. As always, it's a pleasure talking football with you, and you have a blessed day.
You too. I appreciate the call. Great call. Excellent. Great call by BJ. This is a great comment by Antoine Johnson, Sun Devil. Antoine Johnson. The real question is, what is the path to growing your number of automatic spots? That is a great question. Like, that is the issue that I have with auto bids. That is the issue that I have with auto bids. I mean, look, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here, okay? I'm going to sound like a hypocrite. When the auto bids come into play, I'm going to have fun, just like you all. I'm going to have fun watching the conference races. Who's going to be able to get into the play-in games? It's going to involve more teams at the end of the year. Your 7th place Big 12 team might get into that 3rd place spot, 2nd place spot. 3 weeks left to go in the season. Same with the Big 10. I'm going to have fun just like you are. So, even though we're going to go into a system that I would not, if I was the commissioner of college football, which I should be, we would not do. I get it, but I'm still going to have fun with this. But the problem I have is the permanency of the auto bids. And the great example is college basketball. I mean, if you would have had a certain number of auto bids go to a certain conference, the SEC has exploded the last couple of years. What if some year the ACC has the 5 top quarterbacks in the nation for whatever reason? For whatever reason, they had great high school quarterbacks coming out of Virginia, North Carolina, Florida State, Tallahassee. They got the 5 best, and there is 3-4 really good ACC teams for the next 3 years. Excellent. The ACC has 4 of the top 12 teams in the country. Or if you want to use the Big 12 example, go use that. What if that happens but we're stuck in this auto bid phone booth that you can't get out of? It's too permanent. What if the Big 10 what if the Big 10 goes on a slide? I know they're probably not going to. They got big brands. They got all the money. What if the SEC has slid a little bit? Let's be honest. They're still the most powerful, best football conference in the country, but they have slid a little bit, and I think it's due to some of their coaching, whatever. Some of it has to do with NIL, the talent being spread a little. I don't like the permanence of it. That's what I don't like. Above a lot of one of the things I don't like. Antoine Johnson hits the nail on the head. I mean, what if the Big 12 fights above its weight? What if Arizona State, Sam Leavitt does fantastic this year? It brings in another great quarterback after Leavitt is gone. It becomes QB, Arizona State. Kalani Sitake becomes a legend at BYU, and BYU becomes a giant. You got to have some sort of mechanism that changes the auto bids for the Big 12 from 2.5 to 3, or to 3 permanent, or to 4, or whatever. There's got to be some mechanism involved there. But again, it probably won't be, because the Big 10 and the SEC have the power that they've accumulated, that the other have signed off on. But Antoine Johnson, great question. And of course, with the great questions, I don't have the answer. What if the Big 10 and SEC champs ever have 4+ losses? Still automatic? Yeah. Stephen Vitt, the one good part about this, Mr. Bobcat, the one good part about this is the Minnesota Golden Gophers could squeak in as the 6th place Big 10 team with a 7-5 record, but 6-3 in the Big 10 conference. They win a bunch of tiebreakers. They come in 6th. They slide on in. They play a 3rd place team who really has a bad night. The Gophers win, and they go into the playoffs. Sky you ma, baby. Sky you ma. Let's go. Who in the Big 10 besides Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State has a chance of winning the national championship? I would throw in USC. I would throw in Oregon. I would throw in Washington. They were just in the national championship. So there's at least 6 teams and a few more if Nebraska ever gets it going. And I think Nebraska's going to be pretty good this year. And who knows? I mean, who knows? Who knows? We saw Indiana was pretty damn good last year. Who knows? Lorenzo Haynes, Jose, Indiana, Illinois. And let's not forget about the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Lorenzo Haynes, I kind of love the idea of the Big 12 ACC having their own spotlight game. Now, of course, there would be other play-in games. You would have the Big 12 championship game, ACC championship game, SEC championship game, Big 10 championship game, SEC 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5, the Big 10 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. John Famlor, really a 24 team should de facto. Of course, Minnesota can. Golden Gophers. Michael Smith, again, no current Big 12 team has more than 2 wins versus Notre Dame, 9 wins total. Notre Dame absolutely destroyed the 2 best Big 12 teams, Texas and Oklahoma, when they were part of that substandard conference. Michael Smith. What happens if those 5th place Big 10 and SEC teams get blown out all the time? Well, we're going to have blowouts. We're going to have blowouts in the playoffs. Right? We're going to have blowouts. Tennessee was absolutely rocked by the Buckeyes. We're going to have them. It doesn't mean that that team should not have been in the playoffs. It just means you do have blowouts in the playoffs. By the way, Denver Nuggets, Oklahoma City Thunder play Game 7 tomorrow. The winner plays the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals on Tuesday night. The march to destroy Loserville City. The march towards the mayor of Loserville City no longer being the mayor, the fat guy from Minnesota. The march is on. Go Timberwolves. And my prayers go out to to the people who got hurt in Palm Springs. That car bomb went off today in Palm Springs, California. My prayers go out to the 5 people who were injured. It sounds like I just read the latest reports. It was definitely a bomb. They suspect an intentional act. And of course, my prayers go out to the people of Missouri, in Kentucky, the loved ones who lost, the loved ones who lost people. Just terrific, just horrific, absolutely horrific.
From
John.
John, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir. I do appreciate it.
Hey, Greg. I was trying to think of a way that we could make this thing as equitable as possible for
Yep.
all 4 of the power conferences.
You bet.
And you were talking about the play-in. If we had the 4 conference winners, they're in. The 2 second-place teams, even though they lose, the 4 second-place teams, they lose, they're still in, so that gives you 8. If we matched up the 3 and 4, the 3s against each other and the 4s against each other in each conference, and so let's say the Big 10 played the number 3 team this year against the Big 12, and next year they play the SEC, or next year they play the ACC, like a round robin.
Sure.
Those 3 and 4s could go in there. The other 2 would be kicked out, and
Yep.
that would still leave plenty of room for the at-large teams and the G5s.
That would be great. That would be fun. That would be equitable. I think you would have 3 versus 4, not 3 versus 3, 4 versus 4s. I think you'd have 3 versus 4s. That sounds like a great idea. The problem, there's a problem with that idea, though. The SEC and the Big 10 aren't looking for it to be equitable.
Yeah, no.
That's the reality. And that is why that's why I think this idea that we're talking about tonight is at least being talked about. It's like a little bit more of a little bit more of a fig leaf towards the Big 12 and ACC. But that idea that you just put out, maybe in the future that happens. Remember, the Big 10 SEC's power in this playoffs is only written in stone until the end of this current playoff structure to 2030-31. Now that is good news and that is bad news. The good news is their power, their ability to do what they want. They have the votes if they agree together. That ends in 2031. The bad news is they might go off and form their own thing after 2031. We shall see. But go ahead, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Great idea, though.
No, that's okay. I hope they don't split off either. I want to keep everything together
Yep.
if possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we went with the 3 and the 4s working their way into it, you actually add, by doing that, you add 2 more teams into the mix. The bottom 4s, and it also keeps everybody more engaged into the games, and it proves, I don't really know if it really matters, but it kind of shows you the strength of your conference from top to bottom. Although you may not win the national championship, you may still win 2, 3, and 4.
Mm-hmm.
So it would still show that you have a pretty tough conference.
Yeah.
But that's just my thought. I just wanted to kind of keep it as even as we could and keep everybody engaged in the games.
Yep. I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you on that.
All right, Greg. Well, I always enjoy listening to you, and you guys, y'all have a great show, and I'll keep on listening.
Beautiful. Thank you, John. Call again, sir. Beautiful call. Great call, Rod Nix. Great show, Greg. I know this is a reach, but the best model, in my view, is the 16-team format used by FCS from 86 to 2008. The post-2001 version is the best in my eyes. Maria Garcia. Hola, food is almost ready. Well, 1 hour. Okay, wait a second. Maria, don't leave. The little general is in the chat room. The little general is in the chat room. Are you saying that the food is going to be done in 1 hour from now? Or is it done now? I got to know. Maria, like I said at the beginning of the show, Maria is making, put it down in the chat what you're making, Maria, because I can't even pronounce it. Some sort of, I don't know what the heck she's making. Some sort of pulled pork. Okay, it's going to be done in 1 hour. Going to be done in 1 hour. Can you type down what you're making, Maria? Jose is in the house. He's going to know what you're making. Jose is going to understand. Whatever that is, Maria is making. Cachanita. Yeah, she's going to make it in. So it's pork. It's pork. What is it? It's pork with. Yeah. It was a big old pork. It's been in the oven for hours and hours and hours, but it was marinated. She made this. The problem is I'm a moron, so whatever I say is going to not cast the proper light on what she's doing. No, it does not have cheese on it. AMAC, you're getting in trouble. AMAC, you are getting in trouble. No. It's like a pork barbecue. It's a Mayan dish from Yucatan. Mayan dish. I don't know. She's got a lot of different seasoning. I could never do it. I could never cook it. Oh, and she's got a jar that is pickled. She's pickling the red onion that goes in the taco. Something else, probably carrots, whatever. And it's habanero is in the pickled jar. So that goes on the taco, on top of the taco. Not cheese. Not cheese. Do you understand? Do you understand? All that flavor, all that what is going on, and you don't have to put cheese on it. Slow roasted. Yeah. Habanero's in there. Habanero. Yes, like pulled pork. Yes. But it has a certain type of seeds. There's a certain ingredients that you get into it. But I don't know how to cook it. But as you know, that's the fat guy from Minnesota. I can eat it, baby. I can eat it. Slow roasted pork dish. How about sour cream? Not on this. Not on this. Nope. Pork butt, pork shoulder, whatever is best. Plenty of fat to help the slow cooking. Okay, so back to the show here. Back to the show. Again, the phone lines are open. This was a very simple show here. Just wanted to talk about the possibility. What does the Big 12? Let me do this. This is what I've wanted to do here. Should Big 12 and ACC agree to third place play-in game for an auto bid in 16-team playoffs? Texas A&M Texas A&M, the number one softball team lost today, so they're playing an elimination game against Marist. Wow. John Famlor, Greg, any talk about a G5 6-playing game among conference champions? I haven't heard that, but wouldn't that be fantastic? Wouldn't that be fantastic? But you know, there's a problem with that. Right now and going forward, it is the highest ranked G6 conference champion will get an automatic bid. But to have a play-in game among the G6 conference champions, the G6 schools are playing an extra game. Because they're playing their conference championship games the same weekend as the Big 10, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, and their play-in games. All these games are being played on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe even a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So when would you play the extra game, the play-in game? I guess you would say the top 2 ranked conference champions in the G5, G6. That's the problem. That would be an issue. It would be a logistical issue. Oregon softball got blown out by Stanford. Yeah, that's the problem with that, Michael Smith. You are correct. Interesting idea, though. More interesting ideas, I think, are going to be coming. Okay, we're going to shut this down. The phone calls have ended. Thank you for joining us here on a call-in Saturday night is all right for PATC. Interesting discussion. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll find out. We're going to find out together. It's one of the options that are being discussed. Expedition Greg, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your generosity. Friends call me Sean. Please say thank you to Expedition Greg when you get the opportunity. Both of you, Expedition Greg and friends call me Sean. Both of you are officially knighted, cloak, and dagger. Justin R. It is sad that 11-1 non-G5 champ won't get a college football playoff at large bid. Last year, we had a few G5 schools that almost like if Navy or Army could have went all the way, I mean, it could have gotten really tricky. I mean, there was some really good G5 schools last year. I mean, some really excellent seasons. This year could be the same. It's going to be fascinating to watch. I'm all excited to join us here to go through the rest of this off season and then do all the watch parties and talk about college football every single day, every single week from August 28th all the way to the championship game. Please subscribe to our channel. Turn on those notifications. We're having a lot of fun here at Peek Around the Corner. Thank you for joining us on a Saturday night is all right for PATC. Until next time. From all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.